Hi, I ordered one of these in the mail, and it came just like this, the box open and everything. This is a reproduction of the T-5 parachutes. They were the main parachutes used by the U.S. during World War II. And I've been looking at them for a while. I know they're not the best copy out there. In fact, they're probably the worst, but they're definitely the cheapest. And they're too big to fit on my normal bench inside, so I took it outside. And I thought, why not use the Jeep? Because it's not doing anything. So you get a bunch of different bags, and it took me a long time to figure out what was what. Of course, there's no parachute. This is just the harness. So you get your pack board or your pack tray, and then the harness just goes on that. It took me many tries to get this right. Had to look at pictures of originals because they don't come with instructions. So what I finally figured out is the harness all ties into itself. So there's a strap that comes from the riser there, goes across the pack board and then through the harness on the bottom, and that goes around your leg. So it's actually pretty secure, and I was surprised how thick the webbing is, and it might actually hold some weight. These are the early, the first pattern. They were standardized in 1941 and primarily used for training throughout the war, but they were also used in early airborne operations like North Africa, Sicily, and continued to be used in the Pacific for some reason. As I was doing this, this was very frustrating, and I probably had, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours of video, which is very uncommon for me. I usually don't have to edit very much. But I was thinking, the lady who owned our house before we did, she lived here for many years. I think they moved in 47. She spent the war packing parachutes for Pioneer in Bronson, Michigan. And so I'm sure she did a lot of this type of stuff, but it's just very frustrating. All the straps and no instructions. We finally kind of got it figured out. Finally got to this point, and I thought, let's put it together because it looks like it's mostly done. They come with these little pieces of plastic, and the only thing I can guess they're for is to hold the form because they're the right size. And so I started putting them in and fitting the sides, and I thought maybe I should do the reserve chute first because this doesn't look like it's going to work too well. And I couldn't figure out, there's a lot of flaps and a lot of corners and eyelets, and wasn't quite sure what I was doing. So I thought, let's try maybe something a little lower stakes first. So did the same thing with the reserve chute. It comes with a reserve chute, by the way. This little piece of plastic is included to kind of hold the form, which is hilarious. The pictures have them, of course, a full parachute and a full reserve, but these little things are kind of pathetic. The harnesses are missing a lot of the markings. The only marking it really has is the ZWJPW, that's the manufacturer. And the reserve says top, and that is it. They should have had a manufacturer acceptance stamps, and I thought about doing all that, but I didn't really want to on this. I'm not going to display it. It's not going to be anything people are going to be looking at. I just got it for fun. So this ripcord is angled so it fits flusher with the reserve chute. And then you have these little eyelets that the ripcord goes through, which is a cool idea, and I can see how they would work. So I got it together, and it's a little pathetic. It's not looking too good. So I decided to undo it and put a little foam in there. I just happen to have this kicking around. I got some more foam for the main chute, but I had to go get that because I don't normally have a bunch of foam laying around. These lift the dot snaps are really strong. I don't know if they'll break in. I don't know if they need to break in. This happened to be about the right length, so I just had to cut it in half. This foam, if you buy it from a fabric store or a kind of a specialty store, a upholstery place, it's kind of expensive. This came from Home Depot, and it's I think a camping pad or something. But you can get I think it's like a 3x5 sheet for like $20. It's a lot cheaper than getting it at a place that is supposed to sell foam. I noticed the first time I did the reserve chute, I did it wrong, which is one reason it took me forever. They're a lot simpler than I was thinking. I thought the sides went underneath and they just go on top, and that makes a lot more sense and saves a lot of struggle. I've said this before, but I really struggled. This is probably my most time-consuming video and most frustrating. See, way easier than struggling with that other one. I made it look a lot fuller, and then it has these little bungees that go around on all the sides and on the top and bottom and sides. I think the idea is if you needed to pull the reserve chute, these bands would pull the pack tray out of the way so the canopy could do its thing. These, of course, aren't going to do much because I'm sure there's not enough tension on them. They're just for show. Everything also is a lot brighter white than I think it should be. Those bungees are really bright white. All the webbing is really bright white. If you look at originals, even period originals, they're more of an off-white or almost a beige. But a good quality harness is about $1,500, and these are about $300 with the harness, pack tray, and the reserve chute. So they're way cheaper. Come out of China, of course. All this stuff comes out of China. But I was actually impressed with how well made these are. The stitching seems to be a lot more robust than most of the stuff you see coming out of China. So I got that done, and then it started getting dark, and I thought, I'll just finish this tomorrow. The problem is, it rained for the next 5 days and then snowed after that. So I had to bring it inside, and I apologize that it's mostly cut off, but I didn't have a lot of choice because of the weather. So these two risers, they would have had the parachute, the cord tied to those loops on the end. Later, they went to a threaded one that you could replace just those rings. I've got a couple of post-war, early 50s parachutes that have these the same. They look the same. They just have a threaded part. So I cut a piece of foam, and then this is the end. This is another frustrating thing, is I had to look at many pictures to figure out how they went. It comes with this cord that is way thicker than the original. The idea is if you jump out of an airplane, your body weight breaks the string. But I got to the end, and the string they gave me was not long enough. So I took it all out, and then I added this new one that was a thinner weight of a string, but then my phone died like halfway through. So that's how it turned out. I'm 90% sure I did the end flaps wrong, but you have those two little green pieces of canvas on the sides, and that's to hold your static line. So this would have attached to the airplane and would have been fixed to a cable. When you jumped, your body weight would pull that cover off and release the parachute. They came with these rubber bands, and I got like 2 rows done, and one of them broke. And they only sent me 6, and originals had 8. So I got this far. It was going okay, and then I thought, this might work. This doesn't look too bad, and they're pretty big, so it worked well. But then that broke, and so I took them all out and bought some actual mil-spec rigger bands. These have been the same 3/8 by 2 inch since World War II. They still make them. And the static line, I think, is too long because I ended up having to do 5 on each side instead of 4. But it turned out all right. And then, just for comparison, this is a piece of original wartime harness. You can see the hardware is pretty close. The stitching is not as heavy as it is on that one, but the webbing is about the right weight, very similar width. So overall, they're a pretty good reproduction, especially if you're going for I was talking to a guy in one of the local clubs that has one of these hanging from a ceiling. He has a mannequin coming out of his shop. So it'd be perfect for that. You're not going to see it, and it looks good if you're not real nitpicky and not getting really detailed. So these little pockets on both are for your parachute log. They're a little booklet that came with every parachute, and they just have any records if they've been repacked or maintained, but they don't fit. The pockets on the chutes are not big enough for the original books. But that's okay. I'm not going to put anything in there anyway. So now that the back is done, these 2 D-rings under that, so those D-rings are what your reserve chute clips onto. And then there's a cloth that goes in the middle, but I got it up and noticed it says top, and I had it on the bottom. So I had to flip it around. This also makes sense because it sits a little bit lower, and it makes sense not to have your reserve chute in the way of your mobility. This little sash thing goes through these 2 loops on the back, and just gives you a little bit more support if you had to use a reserve chute. So I go through and then ties into that loop on that side. So that is kind of how it's set up. I was going to put it on, but I'm like a foot taller and 100 pounds heavier than most paratroopers during World War II. So I did not attempt it, but I'm thinking I might do another video where I actually do something with it. But that's how it turned out. It's not bad, especially for the money. If you're going for a display or a mannequin or something, it's perfect. And let me know if you have any thoughts. Thanks for watching.